good afternoon to all of you, and I want to welcome you to our signing ceremony today, and thank you for joining us. I'm Larry Phillips. I'm privileged to be able to chair the King County Council this year, and very pleased to be able to be here today for meeting with all of you, seeing all of you with so many smiling faces, and then an opportunity to sign some very important legislation which will expand access to voting and legislation that received the unanimous approval of the King County Council. I am joined today by our King County Executive Dow Constantine and also my colleagues who were instrumental in moving this legislation forward. First of all, Councilmember Rod Dembowski, who was the lead sponsor on this. And of course, our very long-term valued colleague, Councilmember Larry Gossett, who also and I think we also have Julie Wise here from Elections, and she is the Deputy Director, and I don't know if Cheryl's going to be able to join, but I'm glad that you're with us as well. As I mentioned, I'm very pleased that we were able to approve this legislation that broadens what is known as the historic Federal Voting Rights Act, something that we've just celebrated in terms of its 50-year history, but requiring materials to be translated into additional languages so that more people can participate in our democracy and have their voice be heard through their votes. And that is starting with expansion to Spanish and Korean languages, which is very important to all of you here and very important to our democracy. We are, as a region, one of the fastest growing places in America. It's amazing how quickly we're growing here. But with that rapidly growing population, it's important that we provide additional opportunities for individuals who speak a language other than English but want to participate as citizens in our democracy and helping to shape and guide where we're going as a region. It's a right, of course, and one that we need to be able to reach and make sure is available to every citizen. I'm thrilled now that we'll be able to expand that through making citizens better informed and giving them a way in which to be engaged with new resources for voting and for participating. So with that, some very brief remarks and opening today. I'm going to turn this over now to our sponsor and to of this legislation and to our very valued colleague, Councilmember Rod Dembowski. Rod.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What a great day! All right. It's really good to see all you here. You know, next Thursday on the 6th of August is the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Federal Voting Rights Act. And Senator Kennedy, then Bobby Kennedy from New York, offered a floor amendment, which was the very first federal legislation to reduce language barriers to accessing the ballot. And it's in that tradition that we are expanding on the Federal Voting Rights Act with this legislation that will be signed today, which will expand translated materials beyond the bare minimums in the Federal Voting Rights Act, starting with Korean and Spanish by the general election of next year. It's a really, really exciting thing. I just want to take a moment to thank the folks who helped us pass this legislation. The Korean American Coalition was instrumental in its passage. Your testimony, your advocacy was powerful, particularly of your senior citizens, your citizens who are seniors. And I see some of them here. To hear their testimony about being American citizens for decades, yet still struggling to fully participate in a meaningful way at the ballot, compelled unanimous support at the County Council for this legislation and showed all about why we're doing it. I want to thank the Municipal League for their support. Alejandra Trace is here, and she was very helpful, along with Ben Stafford. And I want to thank the Elections Department. We worked closely with them, and they were good allies to make sure we did this in the right way. So it's an exciting day, and we are leading the nation here in King County. Well, many parts of the country are going back and making it harder to vote. We're making it easier. And I think, finally, it's important to remember what this is about. The Voting Rights Act was actually part of President Johnson's war on poverty, because he understood, and the Congress at that time understood, that fully participating in the American democracy means starting with voting, but it's empowering. And it lets you participate in the change that you want to see happen with respect to reducing income inequality, increasing opportunities, improving education. That all starts at the ballot box. And we should make that as easy as possible, in my view, and that's what this legislation does. So today's an exciting day. Thank you all for your support.
I want to start by thanking the great, ingenious leaders of Martin Luther King County government for being here this morning. I'm happy to join them. Executive Dow Constantine and County Council Chair Larry Phillips, and the great leader of this legislation that he just spoke to, Rod Dembowski. I'm sorry, Rod. I'm happy because I was able to lead, along with both of these fellows, the effort to get immigrant and refugee legislation through the county council. Also this past week that we're going to have the pleasure of signing on to in just a moment. But I really want to thank all of you, because it was mostly you, led by Haptamu, who now is working in the police department of the city of Seattle, and Velma, and all the other immigrant and refugee leaders for coming forth and saying, look, we have something that helps us to crystallize and focus our effort to improve the life condition of immigrant and refugees at the city. We need it at the county. And as my colleagues have already said, about 30% of the entire county population are people who were born in countries other than the United States, or they're the children thereof. And over 50% of all the children under the age of 18 in our county are non-white. So these are great pieces of legislation, and I'm really happy to be supportive along with the men that are up here with me. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you, council members. Today's action on these two pieces of legislation demonstrates our shared commitment between the council and the executive, and we worked with you, for instance, Councilmember Gossett, on the development of the commission, to increasing access to opportunity and to increasing the ability of all of our residents to participate in this democracy. Unlike many other parts of the country, as Councilmember Dembowski alluded, which view immigration as a problem to be dealt with and diversity as a challenge to be overcome, we here in King County view our diversity, our growing immigrant presence as the source of our vitality, the source of our economic opportunity, the source of the deepening of our cultural lives here in this county. 1/4 of county residents speak a language other than English at home. And so our increasingly diverse population is truly a leading factor in the remarkable economic growth that we've been seeing. And yet, many immigrants are not benefiting from the wealth that they are helping to create for this region. That's not because of lack of effort. It is, in fact, the case that immigrants start businesses, for example, at a much higher rate than those of us who are born here, immigrants and their offspring. But what is actually preventing many immigrants and refugees from joining our very strained and depleted middle class is a lack of access to opportunity, the presence of barriers to participation in the basic mechanisms of society like local government. So how do we expect people to succeed here in America, in King County, when they don't have a say in the laws that are governing their lives, and they don't have a say in the policies that directly affect them? That's why today's legislation is so important and is so needed. It moves us a step closer to ensuring that every person who lives here has a voice in their government and an opportunity to succeed. And that fundamentally is our promise here. I want to thank you for joining us today for this historic moment that you helped create. you have helped us take another step closer to the ideals that we have embraced in embracing Dr. Martin Luther King as the namesake of this county. And if I might distill and summarize that, it is our commitment that every person in this county, every baby born, every child growing up, every adult who has come here looking for a better life, will have the opportunity to fulfill his or her potential. That is what this legislation is about today. And so, Mr. Chair,
I think it's time to
I would
sign.
like to invite you to the table,
Very good,
and we are going to sign the legislation.
very good. Thank you. So, you got this.
I wish that
Can we
folks
move
would
this
come
forward?
join us. We'll push this way up. The only people on that side should be people with cameras in their hands. There we go. Could I have a pen, please? Thank you.
That way I get that back.
This is the signing pen, yes.
That was not
I
planned.
think I have to sign first.
Okay,
Is
so
that right?
this is,
Get in here with us.
Get copies of
I
this?
have to
you have to sign first, so
We are the universe.
You want to take the mic over to the side?
Oh, no, I want
This
to
is what
leave it here for
democracy
just a
looks
second. So I'm going to ask my colleagues and my friends here today just to indulge me for one more minute. And without revealing either Councilmember Larry Gossett's age nor mine, Councilmember Gossett and I, and maybe some others here, well remember the tumultuous era of the 1960s. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was an incredible milestone in the history of America, but also emblematic of the struggles of that time to provide more of an opportunity for people in America to participate and to vote. And it has stood the test of time for 50 years. And I just wanted to emphasize the fact that now here in King County, 50 years later, we're able to carry on that wonderful tradition. But personally, for me, as I think most people here know, I'm retiring at the end of the year. And there's been some wonderful legislation that we've passed this year that have marked milestones for this county. This is among the best and the highest of those milestones at this time. Mark, so I am pleased, I can't tell you how much I'm honored to be able to sign this legislation and the work of Councilmember Dembowski, my colleagues, and also the wonderful words that have been shared here, and also the wonderful involvement of all of you to bring this forward. And now on to the participation in the future with a greater voice in our community. So with that, I'm going to sign the legislation. So there you go. All right, and I think I need to pass this to you, and do I need to do a second one?
it's two pieces of legislation.
All right.
So this is,
That's
this is the
immigrant-
legislation creating the Immigrant and Refugee Commission, and I am signing.
Yay.
So you're witness to seeing this become law, right here with these signatures. This is how it happens, so. This is the official mark.
And this is an ordinance related to elections promoting access to elections for historically underrepresented groups. My name's kind of long, so you gotta. There we go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. Pass this on to whoever needs it. All right, thank you, sir, this is great.